Hi, I'm Linda Deir, and
I'm Ray Holly.
it's nice to have you guys back.
Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year. We're going to be talking, like every week, we talk about Guided. Any of you who have read or listened to Guided, this would be an opportunity for you to ask questions around anything that you want to know about, know more about, or whatever. You can ask me right now in this Facebook Live. And we're going to talk about, we're going to get into, what page are we on? On page
8.
what? Page 8 of My Guided Journey in part 2. And we're going to be talking about 8 today. And My Guided Journey is the companion journal to my flagship book, Guided. As a result of writing Guided, I had so many fans ask me questions, so many questions about how to make this connection with their guides and how to know who you are, you know, how to get into that and how to revive what got off track so long ago. That's how we really live a guided life, and that's what this explains in My Guided Journey. Now, this journal is available on my website at lindadeir.com. On the right side, on the homepage, you'll see free download. Free. You can get this for free on my website, all right? So feel free to get that if you don't have that already. And tonight, we're going to be talking about You Became Cautious, page 8 of part 2. And this is when you're about, I'm going to say in the journal, you're about 7 or 8 years old, something like that. Everybody's different, you know, in their maturity as children. And so you're about 7 or 8 years old. And at this point in your life, you just came from page 7 that we did last week, where the guides talked about, we always showed you new things. So the guides always showed you new things, and you just it just felt like you were kind of wandering into it. It was a natural flow. It wasn't something you had to do, you felt you had to do, or anything like that. It actually captured your imagination, and it was like an urge that drew you in. Because the guides knew what to present you with at any given time. And when they presented that to you, you would most likely engage in it. If you didn't, it was because something else was in the way or something was interfering. But the natural curiosity and wonder of a child is to just experiment with everything. So that's what you were doing last week on page 8. This week, and last week we talked about how you were more and more people were asking you who you were talking to, and snap out of it, come out of your dream world, shape up and pay attention and, stop daydreaming. You got so much of that. It felt like a weight was coming down on you. But in spite of that, you'd wander off and be in that natural place and pace with that place you came from, who you are, and those who guide you through this life. You were just one with the whole thing. In fact, I talked last week about how it felt like it was all you, because it felt so natural. All right. So now you're at the point where you become cautious. Now more people are asking you, who are you talking to? And wake up, snap out of it, get with the agenda. What's wrong with you? And even your own peer groups are beginning to push on you like that. They forgot. They gave it up. They threw it away. And they thought, they would say, you're a slow learner, or you don't get it, And you definitely got it. You were connected. You kept the world you came from as you were learning to integrate it into this world. But because this world was impatient with you putting that all together and assimilating how to do that. I mean, you're only 7 or 8. Come on, right? But this world was completely sold on this world, like that world never existed. they threw it away, you know. You were still at the point where you knew that something magical was there that they were asking you to give up, and you weren't going to do it. So you just spent, instead of just wandering off and kind of going off in contemplation and just being by yourself, and like you did in the earlier page, on page 7, now you're beginning to really feel the pressure come down on you, and they are basically asking you to choose between worlds. Choose this world, the one that you were born into, not the one you came from. That doesn't exist. Those are make-believe, friends. They're not real. All that kind of stuff. And that would include you, by the way. The you that came here, that isn't real. No, you have to be 100% invested in this world. That's what you were pressured to do. So some of you got so scared at this point, were paralyzed by the demands that this world was putting on you when you consider what they were asking you to really give up. It was like they didn't even appreciate what that was. They didn't remember. So how could you defend it? How could you hold on to it? How could you integrate it? How could you have the time to breathe and work this out so you stayed in one piece instead of fragmenting off and being just in this world? How do you do that when there's no role models? Nobody's talking about it. No one. All right? It's like you're the only one experiencing this. It's a very lonely feeling. So this is the first time that you really felt the consequences of what it would feel like to actually comply in this world and push this away and be separate for the first time ever since you've been here. This is what this meant to you. But nobody here in this world, nobody appreciated that. Nobody understood that. Nobody remembered that. So the odds were stacking up against you, you know? And that's what we're talking about today. And again, in this journal, My Guided Journey, in part 2, it's the workbook part. We're on page 8 today. You become cautious. When you figure out what that is, when you can go back there and revisit that part of your life from this point of view, where you're objective, where you see yourself at this age, and you remember what that little girl or that little boy was feeling, what it felt like. Not the emotion of it, because if you go into the emotion of it, you're in it. You can't help yourself when you go in it. You've got to stay clear, okay? You've got to be coming from this point of view, where it sees everything for what it is. So remember that. It's all about your mindset when you start writing what happened at that point in your life, in your journal back there, that you see it from this perspective, all right? So.
All right. This whole conscious child thing is kind of a conundrum, because you were conscious when you got to school. Before you got there. Mm-hmm. Long before you got there. It's the way you were brought up.
By the guides.
By your guides, and you were conscious, and all of a sudden you start school and you run into all these kids who are not conscious.
Right.
So that's where this little inner war starts. They don't see you as conscious.
No, they do not.
How do they see you?
They see me, or the likes of me, would be possibly you, on some level. Like something's wrong with you. Like you don't get it. Like you're stupid. Like you don't fit in. All the things that you never even thought about, you know? When you're connected like this, you don't think about all those things, because that's all fear-based thinking. Because when you have yourself and this connection to those who agreed to guide you through this life, you don't think about how other kids would think when they're just coming from this world, because they're living in fear, they're living in competition, they're living in survival mode. Okay, so you don't think about it when you're still clear. I want to say that when you're still clear, but what happens is, if you finally buy into this and push this away and go, oh, okay, I'm going to really work hard at this and try to make this work. That's the big sellout right there. But let's keep going, Ray.
Well, you were possibly barely holding on once you got to school and started to feel all this pressure.
Right. You were shocked by it.
Right. It was just odd to you, and they thought you were odd, and you thought they were odd, that they didn't get it. They really didn't get it, and they thought you were weird and odd.
Well, it wasn't as much that, Ray. In my experience, when I remember the whole thing, kindergarten, first grade, second, third, I can remember the whole thing. I write about it in Guided, how it played out, and how I maintained this connection to my spirit guide angels, how I maintained it, in spite of all that pressure.
So, a child who is conscious at any level is barely holding on at this point. Now, they're retreating into themselves.
That's exactly what this little child is doing. Exactly that. Rolled up in a ball, and that's when you become cautious. You go inward. And this little child, when she's bent over like this, she's like this and she's like this. So she's holding on with everything she can, and she's protecting herself from what's going on out there. The body language says everything, okay?
So, what are some of the ways, when you look at a child now as an adult, what are some of the ways that you can tell they're being cautious, they're in this phase?
Oh, body language.
What do they look like?
Body language.
Yeah.
It's all body language. When you see them where they don't trust adults, when they pull back, or when they're like this all the time with their phone, and they're shutting it all out. They're shutting you out. They're shutting everybody out. It's the same body language as this right here, where you're all balled up. It's the same thing. That's exactly what they're doing.
So they like cocoon.
Cocoon would be good, right? That's right.
Right.
Right, because you're hanging on. You're holding on to not even, you don't even know what to call it. You're holding on to, you don't even know how to describe it. You don't know how to defend it. You can't hold on to something. You can't even make sense yourself.
Much less tell somebody else about
Right.
it. Right.
Right. In fact, a little part of you at this point is so frustrated with always being, questioned about who is this? Who are you talking? Wake up! Snap out of it! Get out of your dream world. All this they've been doing, it's just wore you down. You're just done.
Mm-hmm. So they have pretty obvious body language, like the little girl in the picture, but what about the emotions? What about the emotions that they're going through while this is happening? What's
going on is they're just beginning to realize that, well, not really realize, but they've been leading up to this through the earlier pages here, but at this point you realize that for you to hold on to this thing that seems to be slipping away, I mean, it's really slipping away. What's causing it to happen is you're beginning to have doubts about this connection yourself. Everybody here is so unanimous about the fact that you need to wake up. You need to come out of your dream world. Who are you talking to? What's wrong with you? Okay, they might even move into the part where they go, are you crazy? We've all heard people say this stuff. You don't need that. You're like, oh, please, I don't need that. So since you don't know what to do about it, go ahead, Ray.
Yeah, I mean, in those days, in the 50s, when you were a child, if you were crazy or they thought you were crazy, there was only one solution. They'd lock you up.
Right.
They'd lock you up. I mean, we know of people who were very, very spiritual, and they were locked up. The one girl was locked up until she was 11 years old.
right? The difference between her and me is she told people about it, and I didn't tell anybody. That was the difference right there. I wouldn't have dared. In fact, you guys, I never talked about it until I wrote my book, Guided. And I was 60 years old when I started writing it and published it when I was 62. I kept this secret a long time. This is a very unique book.
Okay, so you can tell by their body language and you can tell by their emotions that they're expressing. But how does this being overly cautious at this stage in your life, how does that affect your life long term? So you're retreating here.
Yeah, there's some serious decisions being made right here. There's a crossroads that you're just about ready to enter. That's going to be next week. That's what you're moving into, is this crossroads, this final decision that you are just about ready to make next week when you meet with us here on Facebook Live. But you're not quite there yet. You're still with everything you have. You're still loving this. You, your guides, the connection, the ease of your life, okay, when you're just with them. But the pressure from this world, you're in school now, you're exposed to the society more, and your parents are getting more concerned about you because they want to make sure that you can make it in this world and not be coming from la la land. That's how they look at it. That can't help you. That can't be any good for you. How are you going to find your way in this world when you're spending time in this world? They don't see that it's about bringing them together. It's not about throwing you out and all the guidance you brought with you to guide you through this life, so you'd never be alone, and you knew you wouldn't be. No, they don't even recognize that. This is the only world that they acknowledge. This is the one that you have to perform in. And with parents and everything pushing kids even harder, and the demands of what's coming for them in the real world, in the work world, in the world that they're going to meet up with, they're lost. They don't know what to think. They only know they're scared. The fear factor in this world is so amplified now. It's so out of control that if this is all you have, if you feel like this is it and you forgot where you came from and you lost your connection to yourself and your guides, the guides that agreed to help you walk through this life, and this is all you have, I would be scared too. Yeah, that would be scary.
I think, trying to think of how I felt at that age when people would threaten me with something, well, you have to do this, you have to do that. I remember I just got quiet. I wouldn't talk to anybody. I wouldn't talk unless somebody talked to me.
Now that's pretty serious. When a child that rebels and fights isn't as serious about themselves and that important part of themselves as the one who will lash out. Because Ray felt that he was really threatened. That's why he just got quiet, like he disappeared. So they focus on somebody. They can't see me. Right, so they focus on somebody else. And didn't they do that? Right?
Sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
How do you think a child who withdraws into themselves and they're so cautious, how do you think they learned that? Does it come from their family? Does it come from their parents being overly cautious, raising them like that, or?
I think that it's just a primal
instinct
reaction. I think it's just like this little child right here isn't only curled up, but
she's hugging
is holding on.
She's holding on.
That's a primal reaction to something that's really working against her in this world. She's really not dealing with it well.
Mm-hmm.
But no matter what, they look at her, the adults, the people who are 100% invested here, and they just go, well, she just needs to grow out of that.
Yeah, she'll grow out of that, or he'll grow out of that.
Yeah, they'll snap out of that, just like we did. That's what they think. Okay, so I never snapped out of it, you guys. I never grew out of it. Thank God, you know. I just kept it to myself all that time. Amazing, you know. But it didn't go anywhere. I remembered every part of this. I remembered the little kids in my school. I remembered how they struggled and suffered and felt so lonely and cut off. I remember that. Yep.
I mean, there's some things, if you're not connected, even as a child or as an adult, you tend to make your decisions out of fear.
Right.
Or threats.
Threats.
Or doubt.
Right, Ray.
Yeah, if you don't do this way,
consequences.
You're going to get these consequences.
Right.
You know,
that's exactly right.
first time we'll make you stand in the corner. Next time we'll go to the principal's office. And next time you get a beating. You know, that type of thing.
Right. Get kicked out of school.
Yeah.
I know all that.
Yeah. Anyhow, so there's fear of not complying and being like everybody.
Or not.
Right. Or
fear
not.
Or not. No fear.
No fear. And the opposite would be truth. Do you stay with yourself, what you know is true, and make your decisions from that point, if you are connected?
Well, you're getting close to this crossroads, Ray, in the next one.
Mm-hmm.
We're right in between here.
Yep.
So these are the feelings. See, when you're a little kid, you can't think about it this way, what you're describing, as we do as adults.
Right.
With reasoning, well-developed reasoning. This little child is still ill-equipped to make solid decisions. But what's tragic about this situation is this child is making life decisions.
Right.
Right now, and nobody is realizing it. Nobody is really noticing it. They're just looking at her and going, she'll grow out of it. She's got to snap out of it. So whatever it takes. That, you know, she's got to get some tough skin. She's got to, you know, wake up to the world. That's how they look at it. So this child this is where this comes out. You're either coming from fear, you either jump into this and dive right into this world full blow, and it's all fear.
And you blindly comply to whatever they tell you.
You're like this. Please, don't hurt me. Don't hurt me. I'll do anything you want. Tell me what to do. That's what this does. All right. Over here, it doesn't do that. Over here, it goes like this. It's calm. It observes what's going on and all the consequences and all the fear tactics that's being presented to you. Did you hear the difference in this? It's not hyped up. You see it for what it is. You don't take it personally. You don't take it on. You see it out there. But that's where you come from, truth and love. That's where Ray was saying you stand in your power. The other option is to cave in and just let that fear that's been just driving you crazy, and they've been pounding it on you and hitting you with it and threatening you. And if you don't do it this way tomorrow, there's going to be more consequences and more punishment and more blah, blah, blah. Okay, and if that's all you're consumed with, you're for sure going to experience a lot of fear and a lot of losing who you are. All right? You're going to push this away. You're going to be glad to push this away because it's causing all this conflict in your life. Of course, that's not what's happening at all. What's really happening is you dove completely into this world. You threw all this away. You were panicking, okay, because you were so afraid. You let fear get you, all right? Instead of holding on to yourself. If you held on to yourself, the one that came here, the one that is you, okay, that could never happen. This person that came here is way too powerful to allow that to be its demise. It could never happen.
So what they're asking you to do is over here where you are connected to what's strongest, and that's from the time you were born. What they're asking you to do is blindly comply, but there's another element that shows up once you start complying. You get external validation. You didn't get a whole lot of validation
None.
when you were over here.
None.
Your guides didn't give you a gold star.
No, what you didn't get validation like you do in this world, where you get brownie points and stuff. Okay, here, the validation you get is you get to know who you are. You get stronger within yourself, but it's an inside job. It's not something that anybody in this world would really notice. In fact, people in this world might look at that part of you and go, "You're pretty boring," you know, especially as a little kid. They'd look at it like it's pretty boring.
What they're really asking you to do is to stop thinking like a child when you came in here and you were the clearest.
Right.
You know, and that also means you can't be a child anymore.
That's right, Ray. That would be true. That's just about what's happening right here.
Grow
You're
up.
You're just getting to that point, and the pressure to grow up now is just ridiculous. You know, it's just so much. It's overweighted in this world. That's what I want to say. And this one doesn't even exist. People who have a connection to this world are weird. Okay, that's what this world would call it.
Right.
Okay, where when you're coming from who you are, from this world, and you're observing what's going on in the world you're living in right now, you look at it and go, "That's chaotic." You know, I have to take a breath, and I have to really look at this before I jump. All right, but this little child is only 7 or 8 years old. This little child is ill-equipped to be able to understand all this, look at it from that perspective, see it for what it is, and make an intelligent decision. Because you see what this child's doing, like Ray said earlier, this child right now is in deep contemplation and fear of losing what is left of itself, hanging on, okay, to what's left, battling all this in this world so it can hang on to what's left of it. It's doing everything it can. That was you, doing everything you could. And nobody noticed it. Nobody seen that anything was wrong with what they were doing. They were so sure that they were right and forced it on you.
So, at that point where you're being forced to comply and getting external validation when you comply, what can you do for yourself if during this, what would you call it, compliance, which is really compromise is another word.
That's good. I think so.
That you feel deep down inside there's going to be some regrets down the road of you.
Well, you don't think about it like that. When you're this age, you're not thinking like Ray. You're thinking like Ray when you're his age. All right, when you're an adult. Okay, at least by the time you're 20. At this age, when you see, so repeat what you were saying there, so I can get this.
Well, it's you're getting validation, but you feel that every time you get validation, you're giving something up. You're giving a piece of yourself up.
Okay, I'm going to say this. This is what it is. You feel like you sold out.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way.
That you don't think about any of the things down the road and how it might affect you. No, you feel what hits you, punches you in the gut right here at this moment in time, 6, 7, 8 years old, where you sold out. You caved in. You threw in the towel. You just went, I'm tired of fighting this. I can't stand it anymore. Whatever you want. What do you want? Okay, what do you want from me? All right. Everybody does it differently. Some people might go, "Oh, please don't hurt me," and another person might go, "Okay, let's get this done," and just go all the way in. Eventually, what happens, way past the book, by the time you get into your adult life, and you realize where you missed it, and where you caved into this world and just gave it all up for this world. You will always know it. This gut, it's a gut feeling. This feeling, okay? This knowing you came with, this feeling you have, that's your compass, and your guidance that nudges you to go one way or the other, okay? And you just kind of move through this life, living out the life you intended before you got here to learn what you came here to learn. Some of it is over here. I mean, a lot of it is over here, where you come into this life and it's not an accident that you were born right now, that you were born a boy or a girl, that you had the family and the environment you came into. The whole thing's a setup for you to learn. But you don't need to stay there. You don't need to stay stuck where you're at. You don't need to keep making the same decisions that produce the same results that are way less than satisfactory. Because those decisions, believe it or not, were born in these early years. And you keep making the same ones over and over again from that same emotion, okay? I'm not talking about the feeling. The feeling's intelligent. The knowing's intelligent. The emotion is the fear tactics that run you around. The emotion and feeling like a victim, okay? Like you've been being picked on. There's no power in this. This is where your power is. You can't ever throw it away. It's just sitting there, waiting for you to be ready.
Okay, so a lot of the people that follow you online and have read your books have children that are coming through this time of their life.
Right.
Okay, so when they observe these children pulling into themselves,
body language,
being overly cautious,
shutting down,
and they recognize it, what can they do to help them?
they have to take a look at themselves. The parent has to take a look at themselves. They have to, Ray.
What can they tell that child? I mean, first of all,
here's the problem with that. There's no answer for that. Because I'll tell you what happened. We're on page 8. What happened to that child started on page 1. It started over here. Fear. It started on page 1. So the first fear led to the child being desperate or scared enough to ask.
For help.
Who are they asking? There's those friends. Mm-hmm. There's those friends they brought with them. Okay, mm-hmm. and then their friends. This is where the friendship started to develop, because when they asked and they got answers, they had friends. These friends, they recognized them. And who are they? They're the guides. They're those that stayed behind. They're those that guide them through this lifetime. And then there was the relationship grows, so the friendship's getting stronger. The friendship grows. And we become best friends. Are you kidding? You're best friends? No one's ever going to beat this connection. Nobody. Nobody's unconditional like the guides are. They love you no matter what. No matter what you do or don't do in this lifetime, they've got your back. They're with you all the time. And then we always showed you new things. And then, I can't read this upside down. I said that wrong. We did everything together. We always showed you new things. Now, the whole time that Ray's question, I haven't forgotten that question. It got to the point now where you become cautious. So you've lived your whole life, okay, 7, 8 years old you are right here. Since you were born, your parents can't just come into your bedroom one day and go, "What's wrong?" and say one thing to you and it's going to work. It's not going to happen. Your whole life has been consumed with you pushing away these people that keep trying to tell you they're not real. Stop. Who are you talking to? Stop talking to them. Wake up. Snap out of it. Wake up out of your dream world. Their whole life, Ray. It's their whole life. It'd be like your whole life right now. This is all they've ever known.
Right.
So what can you say to that child? You're a little bit late. It's more, I'm going to turn it around. Mm-hmm. You need that child to be able to tell you what's going on. You need that child to be able to trust you so they can actually talk to you for real.
Right.
not fluff and just just to get rid of you, just to keep it cool so they don't let you too close to them. It's starting, you guys. It's starting right here. It started with you at this age. And the point to this is to go back and write in there what that was. See, the sooner you connect with each one of these pages in part 2, page 1 through 18, and write in there what happened in your life from clarity, not from being consumed by it, not by being a victim of it, but by somebody who sees it for what it is, your real self, observing it, all right? Only then will you be able to go back to this and say, and clean up your act, write it in here, and for the way it happened, and then when you have all these pages done in part 2, page 1 through 18, you can look at the whole thing and go, oh, now you can maybe, that child that Ray was just talking about, this child at their age, and on page 8, you might have an impact because you can go back to your early part of your life and go, let's take this journey together. Now your child is still young, so you start to get them to take their journey with you. They're not going to be able to articulate what needs to be put into words, but you have a connection to this child for sure. You can help them do that, but you have to do it for yourself first. It's like being in the plane, and if there's some emergency, they always tell the parent to put the oxygen mask on first and then assist the child. Same exact theory goes with this.
Yeah, I think you're getting back to the same question now I reflect on it. You're asking a lot of the parents because they could have been the first ones that told the child, you don't have imaginary friends.
They were the first.
They don't exist.
They were very most likely the first person that told them that. Mm-hmm. Even if they did it as a joke, it offended the child. It threatened their situation.
Yeah.
It was real. In fact, it was so real to the child, Ray. It's never more real than when you are that real.
They want you to believe. They don't want you to believe in imaginary friends that exist because you came in with them and you've seen them and you've communicated with them.
And they feel like you.
Before you can speak.
The reason they feel like you is because you didn't come in. You're not separate from them. You know that. The part of you that's in this world sees it as totally separate. That's totally separate if it exists at all. That would be the logic from being in this world. But coming from that world, the world you came from, you were born from somewhere, you guys. You came from there, all right? And from that world, you just see it for what it is.
That's why they feel familiar.
Because they are.
So the friends that you have that feel the most familiar and are real, and because you came from there and you brought them with you, those are the ones your parents don't want you to
hang out with anymore.
Right, but they do want you to believe in Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy.
Well, yeah, that's this
They're
world.
real.
Well, Ray, that's this world.
Right.
They want you to... the world, you know how they call the world we live in an illusion? Well, that's what the Easter Bunny and Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy and everybody, it's part of the illusion. It's not the only one, right? Everything's an illusion here, all right?
But think of how depressed, I don't know, maybe you weren't, think of how depressed you were as a child when you first realized that there wasn't a Santa Claus, that it really was your parents. And this whole thing shattered.
It was a...
Right?
Yeah, it goes with this, doesn't it?
Right.
You've been lied to. That's the first lesson in what it feels like to be lied to. That's part of the karmic madness of this world.
Karmic madness.
All right.
I love that phrase. Okay, so now as a child, once you find out there's no Santa Claus or no
How do you
Easter
deal
Bunny,
with liars?
Right, you have to figure out how you're going to deal with liars, and your parents are liars. Right. And were they lying about the other thing? That
right.
You didn't really have invisible friends.
And do you see, Well, yeah. You start. What it does is it falls back on you. 6 or 7 years old, 8 years old. It falls back on you. No matter how much you want to go, they're liars and everything. It crumbles the whole thing. I mean, at what point did they not? Are people lying to you? And what point? Where's the line? You don't know where the line. Who do you have to consult with? Yourself. It goes right back to that. So even though you're just a little, 7, 8-year-old child, that doesn't mean that you're not ready for lessons. You came here for lessons. This is karmic madness here in this world. Everything's an illusion. This is where you go to school and learn your lessons. Okay, so that's what this is, you guys. And we start to see it for what it is. We don't take it so personally. You can't take this stuff personally. Nobody really cares, if you want the truth, about, much of anything. I mean, you can pretty much do what you want to do and bump along and figure it out and make, if you want to call it mistakes, I just say it's one great big journey, a big continuum. You try this and you do this and you do that, and it leads to this and it leads to that, and you feel the guidance and you follow the guidance, and this is what you came here to do. You can't measure yourself against somebody else, because that's what this world does. This world's competitive. This world will tear you down. It will make you look like you are nothing, okay, if you don't have your real self, if you can't see it from a higher perspective, because it's just an illusion. So,
okay, one more comment, and we have a comment from Michael.
Okay, good.
So getting back to the Santa Claus thing, you realize that they've been lying to you about Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy. It's really them. But now you're thinking, were they lying to me about my guides,
or anything else,
or my invisible friend? So what that shows the child, maybe I'm wrong here, what that shows the child and what they use to base future decisions on and getting in or out of a situation is that everybody's lying to them.
Right.
And everybody's manipulating them.
Right.
Somehow.
Exactly. I mean, a child, anybody who has a mind of their own that can think for themselves, that would dare to do that, would absolutely figure that out. It's just what happened.
I mean, some children are so traumatic, they just shut down and they stop speaking till they're 20 years old. I mean, there's cases of that. They don't talk for years.
Well, they just have a different karmic experience, right?
Yeah, but do they know who they are?
Well, they may or may not. That's a pretty excessive response to being in this world. I mean, you came here to experience this, and then you shut down.
Right.
It's like your mother's 9 months pregnant. You're supposed to come out now, and you won't come out. What are you holding up? Why are you hesitating? All right. So
what are you afraid of?
What are you afraid of? So it really does come back to, you are the one that is the power here. You're the one. When I was a little kid and my mom almost killed me at 20 months old, and my guides came to my rescue when I asked out loud for their help, for someone to help me, and they all showed up. And that's when this happened. That's when they all showed up. I mean, at that point, I had what I realized in that whole experience in an instant, from having them all around me, their energy circling me, and what I understood, it was, I could never go back to being unconscious. I could never do it, because I knew it'd be like I'd be the biggest fraud you could imagine. And although nobody would know that, I would know that. It hit me so deeply, and it's been such a powerful force in my life, that I could not be a fraud. To me, I didn't come here to experience something like this that's so it's an illusion. I mean, something that's just ridiculous, or what somebody thinks about me. Whatever. I've had people say things about me, attack me, it's not new. And I'm okay with that. What I know is just great, and that's what happens. You know who you are. You're not afraid, and there's no reason to be afraid, by the way. and you gotta go back and retrace your steps, you guys, to find this out, to find out what I know, to take you to where you are now, and bring out the real you as it comes together, maybe for the first time in your life, or since you were a little child when you pushed it away, and put yourself back together again, so you can, instead of something going on in this world, you panic, and instead of going into panic mode, you don't do it. You see it going on, or you're in the throes of it. You know how to step out here and see it from who you are, from that perspective, and deal with it after you take a breath or sleep on it or whatever, okay? But you don't just let it have you. That's not why you came here. That's not your highest road. And guidance would never take you there. You'd take yourself there when you don't have yourself.
Okay, what I find interesting, I just had a moment of clarity, that when you're this age, 7, 8 years old, and you're all at the point where you're going to have to get pushed this way, where you get validation and you become like everybody else, you have to push your friends away, right?
Yeah.
Now, when you get to be 40, 50, 60 years old, and you realize that there's a connection that you had back here at this time, and you want to rekindle that connection, what do you have to do a lot of times? You have to push your friends away. The friends you have built up over a lifetime.
Especially if they're not lined up with you.
Right.
I mean, if they're not lined up with you, they just slow you down or bog you down, or, you know.
I think it's interesting. Both times you have to push your friends away.
You do. Because you know what they are, Ray? They're not friends at that point. They're distractions.
They're distractions that you got along with because you enjoyed the same distractions.
At that time in your life.
Right.
That's why a lot of times you'll hear people say, well, they outgrew their friends.
Right.
That means that some people grow and some people don't. That's all. So what do we have, Ray?
We have a comment from Michael.
Hi, Michael.
Michael's, what is it? Michael's in Australia, right?
Yeah, he's
1 o'clock there or something tomorrow?
he's a trooper.
He is. Okay. Michael says, in this world we are in a very condensed reality. Our desires and our illusions get in the way of the guidance. Right.
That is true.
How does a person know they are talking to their guides and not just hearing their own thoughts or desires or the subconscious, the field of all other activity that's going on around them?
Right. I know
what
he's
they
talking.
wanted to hear.
The noise.
The noise.
Yeah.
The chatter.
Uh-huh.
The noise in your head.
Well, here's a good way to do it, Michael. And if you're not using, I think you probably have the journal, My Guided Journey. When you're making, there's 3 parts to this, by the way, everybody. We're working on part 2 today. But in part 1 talks about how this works. Part 2 is taking the journey, which is what we've been working on today. And part 3 is the journaling. So part 2 is the journey, and part 3 is the journaling. Regarding Michael's question, what you want to do, Michael, is you want to write down the guidance that you're getting or think you're getting into part 3. Date it, fill out these little boxes up here that describe how you got this, how you knew it was your guides, or what you made yourself believe. Let's say that you're making, or somebody is making believe a lot of the time, rather than it really being guidance, okay? It's all about discernment. So you're learning to discern when you first do this. You're learning to discern between what's coming from you as opposed to what's coming through you from the guides. So that's a good question. And here is my answer to that question. As you keep your journal up in part 3, and you keep writing in here day after day what's coming through and how it came through, how it felt, and all the things. Okay. If all you have at the end of a month is all good stuff, it's all the things you want to hear and wanted to know, then it's not coming from your guides. And I'm not saying that your guides bring through bad news all the time. I'm not saying that at all. And they never bring through bad news. They bring through news that you need to know about so that you can make adjustments in your life and deal with it or get through it or avoid it or whatever it happens to be on your path. So if you're always getting nothing but sunshiny news and it's all wonderful and everything, that's BS. I mean, even if you write your dreams into your journal and, and write out your dreams, what's going on with your dreams, which you should do, not every dream is going to be a wonderful dream. So if you're getting a variety of information that oh, this information came through, you just go, oh my God, there is no way I came up with that. I know myself and I never even would have had a thought like that. And there it is. That's guidance. It's real strong. I mean, it's not something you can pretend. It's there. When you get it. It's like, oh boy, it sets you back for a second. You know it.
I think people get into trouble with preconceived outcomes. They ask their guides for their guidance on something they've already made up their mind about. They have a preconceived notion. They have a goal.
They're going to do it anyway.
Right. They're going to ask, should I buy that new car?
Should I marry that person?
Right.
Well, the way I look at it is, if you're asking about that car or that person or whatever it is that you need, that's the answer right there. The fact that you're even asking about it, the fact that you're consulting something out there, okay, to get an answer, you've got the answer. You should question that purchase. You should question that person in your life. I mean, if you're going to marry this person, you really need to take a step back and start. You need to go back to part 2 of this journal, and you need to start doing your work to find out what part of you doesn't trust yourself, what part of you does trust yourself, what part of you continues to make that same decision, producing similar results, leading to just a okay life, not a life like you felt you could have, one that you knew you deserved, one that you feel a vibration with, okay? It's buried back in those early years when you were forced to make decisions and pushed into corners and came out, making a decision. I mean, you're not worthy of that when you're 6 years old or 7 or 8 or 9 or 10. I mean, you really don't know who the heck you are yet. You're not there yet, You're pushed too hard. Yeah.
Forcing you to grow up quickly.
So you can't push any of this. This is intuitive energy, and it's a telepathic communication that you have with your guides. It really is the primary communication you have with them. But because they know that you've lost your ability to communicate telepathically has atrophied, okay? They know that because of that, they come through your dreams. They'll use your dreams first to come through. And then they'll use little points in your life, driving to work, in the shower. You'll get a one-liner, They're always broadcasting guidance to you all. It's just that, like Michael said, how do you discern between the two? Well, if you track it, you've got to track what's coming through. If you track it, you'll see it.
Yeah, this is especially crucial this time of year where everybody's making their New Year's resolutions, or if they like to believe in the law of attraction. I've seen the same things on Facebook. Everybody wants the same things, and they believe in the law of attraction. They want millions and millions of dollars are coming their way. All I have to do is say yes to this post. A fabulous partner is going to show up in my life this year.
Okay, so where Ray's going with this is you to get what you desire, you have to become the person who's capable of getting that.
Right. You said they have to have the vibration or the frequency that draws that in, not putting out a vibration of lack, of neediness.
Right.
You go on a first date with somebody, and you realize that this other person is, wow, they haven't had a relationship for years, and they're putting out this vibe that they're needy, and they wonder why they don't attract a relationship.
Or something that that they don't like, which is a mirror of where they're at the time.
Right. They have to look at themselves as to.
Right. You just have to be willing to, and that's what this does. It gets the cobwebs out. It makes you come from clarity, is what it does. You've got to get clear with yourself again. Once you go through part 2, page 1 through 18, and I always tell people to go to my website. By the way, this is available on my website for anybody who got into this halfway through, or almost all the way through at this point. My Guided Journey is available on lindadeir.com. On the homepage, on the right side, free download. But while you're on the website, click on, after you get your download, click on blog in the navigation bars at the top, and go to the blog and click on My Guided Journey. It says _My Guided Journey in the categories on the right side. And it will take you to the videos that Ray and I did on each one of these pages in part 2 that we already did, that you need to watch before you work on any one of these pages. And I say that because it'll explain it really well, and it'll get you into the right mindset, so you're not coming from being a victim or being in emotional energy. You're coming from your power, okay? From who you are, okay? That's who you brought with you. You didn't go anywhere. You've just been laying low, waiting for you to be ready over here. The one that got caught up in all this, all right?
And they'll see a video about how Ray went on this journey, took this journey.
Right.
Because we all aren't like you, where you were a conscious child and you just kept pushing forward all the way through this.
Right.
You didn't have to go back and figure out where you went wrong.
No, I didn't. That's right.
I did. I got to page, what was it, 14 or something before I could even start?
Yeah. Before you could even, Ray was on page 14 of the journal. There's 18 pages in this. Before he could even start writing. It was like he was froze up all the way to page 14. And then you said, when you finished 18, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18.
I went backwards. You
went to 13, then 12.
Until I found out the spot.
On page 1.
What happened in my life.
Where it all started.
That knocked me off track in my decision making.
Ever since. Yep. That's right.
Pretty amazing.
Yeah, you'll catch it, you'll see it, you'll look at it. You won't be going, oh, you'll be looking at it going, oh, this is intelligent. I finally have the information. It was there all the time. The hidden knowledge. It resides inside that little child. That's why part 2 needs to be done.
Okay, Michael responded, even when negative information, especially those from a Christian background, and he says that's not me, can see negative or confusing feelings, sensations as a disruptive force in their psychology of understanding the subconscious mind. When you receive information that what is the experience, when you receive information, what is the experience of the actual feeling? People are troubled by their intuition, and they confuse fortune telling with guidance. How do you then ask your guides what is true? Meditate, or do you do something else? You're asking for profound information, not associated with what it's like talking to a friend.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if that's particularly true. They're your best friends.
Okay, so here's the first thing that you want to do, is you want to lighten up. You want to not think it through so deeply that you get in the way of it. That's like so much logic overlay that the flow, it gets in the way of, it's like a dam you build, and the water gets jammed up against the dam. It can't flow. You just don't overthink it. That's my first advice. And
So when you receive the right information, he wants to know, how does that feel?
that's good. And that's exactly what you want to go by, Michael. I always go here. The truth center is where you feel. It's always the truth. So it's all about how you feel. And you'll get information and you'll go, it won't always go, oh. Sometimes it just goes, because now you have to face something. Now you have to consider something that you never thought you'd have to do before. And it's disappointing, all right? So it's just what it is. And again, it's not something that you would have brought upon yourself. You didn't want even maybe to know about that. But you know what? You wanted to know. You went like this. I want to know. And when we do that, we open ourselves up to everything, okay? You have to, in fact, in the beginning, when I talk about it in my book Guided, I talk about in the very beginning, when these things first started happening in my life, where the guides were sending me guidance. At the very beginning, when I was learning to go out of body, the first time they came through and I turned around and I saw myself laying in the bed and I was at the ceiling, I surprised myself so much. Pow! I was right back in my body. It hurt me so bad. I slammed back into my body so hard that my head hurt. I'll never forget it. It was like a massive migraine in an instant. And I surprised myself. So I didn't expect it. Now here I had this guidance this connection with my guides. And even that surprised me because it was so amazing. I was like 3 years old, something like that. And then they taught me from that. When I got over the surprise, the next time it happened, I said, I'm not going to let it surprise me again. I'm not, okay? I was really lining up with my guidance. They showed me how to do this anytime I wanted to. And I did it all the time. On command, boom, I'm out of my body. I could go anywhere I wanted to in an instant. I did it all the time. So it's something that you experiment with. It's something you grow with. It's something you learn with. It's something you flow with. It's a continuum where you don't get in the way of it and go, but is that true? Well, you'll know if it's true or not. Give it a little time. Time's your friend. Let time show it to you, all right? And as you move through it, don't keep writing it down. Don't think you can't do this without writing it down. You have to write it down. Part 3 is the journaling part, where you chronologically keep this in order. And as you write this down, you're your own investigator. You're watching what's going on. You're seeing how much of this is BS coming from you and how much of it's guidance. And when you see the guidance will shine right off the page. When you see it's you, you'll know your own rhetoric. You will spot it, but you got to write it down because that tells on yourself faster than anything, Michael. That's it, all right? And you'll catch yourself overanalyzing. You'll catch yourself doing stuff like that. You'll go, oh, there I am again. There I am. There I am over here. Blah, 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 blah. Instead of coming from clarity so I can be open to what's really going on and write that in too. It will take you no time at all to spot the one who is the fake, to spot
Right,
the fraud.
Yep.
The fraud is over here. It will definitely play games with you. This never will me, okay? So that's what you're looking for. You're looking for, what's the discernment here? Who is it? Is it coming from me and my lower self, or is it coming from true guidance, okay? And from me and my higher self and my guides and me, my real me, my true self, all right? Is it coming from there? You've got to track it, and within a year, and that's a quick period of time. Within a year, if you practice this diligently, you will never be fooled again by yourself. It's not guidance fooling you, it's yourself fooling you. Getting in there, the ego wants to take over again. It's that ego that jumps in there. All right.
Yeah, it goes back to, you've done, I think you've done a couple videos on it in the past, which are on your website, about how you make decisions. Some people make decisions with their brain, thoughts. They make decisions with their thoughts and their emotions, and other people make heart-based decisions, how they feel. I mean, all these things that you're going to ask your guides. Well, should I get this? Should I do this? Should I do this? Now you get back into I think I need a new car. I think I need a vacation.
Well,
I think I need a new
that's
relationship.
over here.
Right. Those are the brain-based, head-based decisions.
Right.
If it comes from your heart, then you know it's true guidance.
Well, if it comes, see, the heart, all these words have been gamed. The law of attraction, heart, your heart, you just come from your heart and everything will work out. Just meditate and everything's all good. You know, it's all been gamed. I mean, what is it? What does that mean? And so the only way you break down what that means, it's different for each person. How much has one person been kidding themselves and really forcing things to happen, as opposed to somebody who's just been going with the flow and it just seems to work out for them? You know, they don't seem to have to work real hard at it. You know, in fact, in Guided, I talked about how people were mad at me and have been mad at me my whole life because they say to me, they go, Linda, you make it look easy. And I'm just going, oh man, you know, I work all the time, but I don't feel like it's work. I love what I do. So I get to get up every day and go do more of what I love to do, right? Other people call that work. Well, that's because they don't love what they're doing. The magic is follow your heart. But that's really, really doing it. All right. If it's not making me a lot of money, and I'm following my heart makes me much happier than my bank account. I still follow my heart. And if that's meant to make me money, it will. I can't make it happen. I can't make it a requirement and I can't stop it with that having a condition upon it. You know, Ray?
That's right.
Yeah. So the heart energy is the heart energy, and you've got to be able to handle what the heart's showing you and what it's telling you, and you won't always like it, okay? Because the heart, the love and truth is where you came from. That's all there is. Over here, fear is what this is based in. Okay, fear and illusion and all this, it's to test you. It's to see how much of the real you can come into this life and participate and live this life you intended before you got here. I mean the whole thing. Because you didn't come here with a light heart. You came here determined to experience what you came here to experience. So don't miss it. And the way you don't miss it is you get this book, this My Guided Journey, and you take the journey, okay?
People can tell when another person does something, makes a decision to do something, that their heart's not in it.
Oh, yeah.
That's very obvious.
Oh, yeah, you can feel it instantly.
Right. But by golly, they're sticking with that decision because I'm going to lose that 50 pounds. You know, I'm going to go to the gym every day and I'm going to run 5 miles a day.
And
I'm going to become...
So what are they listening to?
They're listening to the outcome that they already had in mind before they made the decision to take action
So what
to
Ray's
move
saying,
that direction.
okay, so what Ray's saying is that that's not guidance.
That wasn't guidance.
Right.
No. And a lot of times, if your heart's not in it, the information you made the decision on wasn't guidance.
That's right. That's a should. That's a should do.
Right.
And if it's a should do that you're doing, I mean, you have to, there's some things that you have to get done. It's just it's the consequences of being in this world, you guys. We signed up for this, so get over it, right? But don't let it be your guiding light. I mean, that's just some nonsense that you have to get through in this life. You have to go to work, pay the bills. I mean, sometimes that's it, right? But it's not all you don't give it all away just for that one thing. There's more of you. You are here, by the way. And I mean, it's just you've got to start using the journal to identify what's going on, what happened back there, and then when you get the right mindset around how to do this and not take it personally and bleed. from going through this process. It's also, I mean, yeah, part of it's going to make you feel mad, sad, glad. So, I mean, it's all going to be there. All the emotions are going to be there. I remember this part of my life. It was great. And then I remember a later time when I paid the price because I didn't learn the right things in the earlier pages. And I see where I missed it. But once you write it in here, it's not like this is not a book for losers. This is about writing down what decisions you made, what you felt forced to do. You did it, and this is the menagerie it created. Okay, now, write it in here, rewind, review it, and change it. Now, the only way you can change it is to see it and change the way that you perceive things. You're going to master that by the time you're done with page 18. But only if you go to the blog and you go to the right side under categories and click on 1-My Guided Journey and follow the videos that follow each one of these pages before you start writing in them, because it's going to help you get in the right mindset. By the time you're done exercising that right mindset and you start journaling, you guys are not going to be sitting there talking to yourself. You're going to be writing things in there that are coming from your guidance. That's clarity. That may be those aha moments. It's all there for you to use that way and track it. Okay.
If it comes through and it doesn't make sense, it's not you.
That's right. Now we need to talk about next week.
Next week.
Okay.
A week from today would be
Do we have
January
anything
11th.
else?
No, we have Marla Martinson join us.
All right, Marla.
And Irene, she's in Hong Kong, I think.
All right. We're glad to have you all. Okay, next week is going to be, today we were talking about you become cautious, and it's where you're really trying to hang on to the you that came here, okay? As opposed to just giving it all up and just being in this one world. What a scary thought that would be for me, all right? And next week we're going to get into page 9 of part 2, Crossroads. Okay, so it's at this point right here, Crossroads, where you make a decision. This is a serious decision that you make here at this point. It's a very serious time. You've had the pressure on you. You almost gave it up on page 8, okay, when you became cautious. But a little bit of stubbornness in you wouldn't let you do that. It wouldn't let you throw it all away, all right? So Crossroads is where you're feeling like maybe none of this does exist. Maybe you have been making this all up. You kind of glaze over, you know. You're tired of fighting it. You can't explain it. Maybe if you can't explain it, it isn't real. Maybe, you know, maybe that's how you feel. You're beginning to lean into this world. And some of you just gave it all up for this world. And now you're going, what the heck happened there? I know there's something missing. Some of you held on to a little part of yourself, like cheating. You were a cheater. I was a big cheater. I never gave it up, me up, them up, my higher self up. I never did it. I wouldn't have it, you know. But some of you only cheated a little bit, you know. And
so this is an important point.
this is critical.
There's forces pushing you both ways.
That's right.
You can go left, you can go right.
But see, at the crossroads, what happens is moving forward, and all of us are faced with the crossroads. I kept it with me as I felt like I was pretending in this world. I felt like a fraud. That's what I felt like, because I held on to my true self and everything I knew from that world. I felt that way, but I knew I wasn't a fraud. I just knew these guys totally didn't get it. And they even felt a little dangerous to me, because if I really let out what was going on with me, they all would have been a problem for me. The teachers, the kids, but my parents, everybody. Oh, society would have destroyed me, all right? So because I had already figured out how to walk on those eggshells in my life and get through it pretty well, I was all right with it. I mean, Crossroads, yeah. It's just more of the same. I just saw more of the same going on in this world, and it wasn't something that felt good. I don't know how else to say it to you. It wasn't something that felt good. I saw how the kids struggled and how they became mean and nasty. I saw how the teachers were only there for the money. I mean, and put up with the kids. That most of the teachers didn't even like the kids. It didn't make sense, you know? So, and then my own mom and dad, I'd see how they'd act out in public, and then how they really behaved behind closed doors. It'd be like, whoa, you know? I mean, I was at a crossroads, all right. I mean, I was seeing it all for what it was. So everybody has a different experience, though. And we're going to get into that. We're going to dive into what probably happened in your life, what was going on in your life at the time, and really get in there next week and help you see how that really, the decision you made at the crossroads, it has been a big decision that you've carried with you ever since, that's guided your life. And, you know, we're going to get into that. So show up next week, same place, same time.
Have your questions ready, or you can email them to us throughout the week.
Yep, bring them with you.
Yep.
We'll hit them. And then if you have any questions about Guided, as most of you have read or listened to Guided, it's available on Amazon. And then there's the little books.
The little books. A lot of people don't know about these little books.
These are the books I wrote.
These are the great books. These are little 100-page books, 1 hour read on. You can read it in an hour. You can listen to it in an hour. But these books are all channeled information from Linda's guides, and 2 or 3 paragraphs of a lesson or a learning from the guides, and then about a paragraph from Linda explaining how it works in your life, how you apply it to your life. See, these are very, very thin. And these are called How to Live a Guided Life. Book 1, First Steps. Book 2 is Blue, Meeting the Real You.
And I also did these books in paperback, Kindle, and audiobook format.
Right.
Yeah, and they're available on Amazon as well. Amazon, Audible, iTunes.
But a lot of people don't know you wrote 3 more books after Guided.
I know.
There they are.
And here they are. And this one, My Guided Journey, is the free download on my website. And it was created for the readers of Guided that had I received thousands of emails or questions through Facebook. And
first, they didn't want Guided to stop. They wanted.
Right.
They liked. There's 137 lessons in Guided from the guides: learnings, lessons, awareness, and tips. And they wanted more of that, and that's how these books came about.
Right. And then as I got even more questions, this had to come out, because this is how it comes out of you. This is how you work through the process, so you can make this connection back to who it is you really are, and your higher self and your guides, okay? And you'll never feel alone again. You'll know. You knew it when you first came here. You just forgot it. So we'll see you guys next week.
Don't forget, Happy New Year. Stick to those resolutions for at least till February 1st, you know.
Make this one of your resolutions.
This will help.
Yeah,
that's for
this
sure.
will definitely help.
Be kind. Be a kind human. All right. We'll see you next week.